All right, let's jump right in. When you think about the public cloud, it's this huge shared ocean of computing power. But what if you need your own private space inside of it? That's what we're going to break down today, how you can do exactly that with something called an Azure Virtual Network.
So let's use an analogy here. How do you build your very own private, secure island right in the middle of that vast public cloud ocean? You need a place where your apps and your data can live, totally isolated and protected, but still able to connect to everything they need to. It's a really important question.
And the answer to that question? It's the Azure Virtual Network, or what we call a VNet. This is it. This is the fundamental tool, the bedrock you use to build out your private network, your own personal island right inside of Azure.
Okay, so now you've got your island. The first thing you've got to do is figure out how all the inhabitants, your virtual machines, your databases, all your resources are actually going to talk to each other. We need to get them connected.
And here's the really cool part. By default, the moment you put any Azure resources inside the same VNet, they can securely communicate with each other right out of the box. It's designed to be a private, connected space from the get-go.
But of course, it gets a little more advanced than that. There are really three main ways your resources can connect. First, like we just said, they can talk to each other inside the same VNet. Easy enough. Second, you can connect two separate islands, two different VNets, using a feature called peering. And third, you can create a private, direct connection to other big Azure services, like Azure Storage, using what are called service endpoints.
All right, so communication on the island is sorted. That's great. But, an island that's totally isolated isn't all that useful, right? So now we need to talk about building some bridges to the outside world. Which leads to the next big question. Your resources can all chat happily on their private island, but how in the world do they connect to the mainland, meaning your physical office, and even beyond that, to the rest of the internet?
Well, your VNet has three main ways out. First, it can reach the internet for any outbound traffic. Second, as we just talked about, it can connect to other VNets. And third, and this is absolutely crucial for so many businesses, it can create a secure connection all the way back to your on-premises physical networks.
Let's actually zoom in on that last one for a second, because connecting your office to your cloud network is, well, it's one of the most common things people need to do. It's definitely worth a closer look.
So, you've got two main choices here. Option one is a site-to-site VPN. This basically creates a secure, encrypted tunnel for your data right over the public internet. It's solid and it's great for most standard stuff. But if you need more horsepower, there's Azure Express Route. This is a totally private, dedicated connection that doesn't even touch the public internet. It's for when you need really high speeds and top-tier reliability. So, we've built our island, we've built the bridges. What's next? Well, now we need some rules. We have to control the traffic that's coming and going across those bridges. We need a bouncer.
And that's exactly what you become. You are the border control for your private island. With a VNet, you get to decide exactly what traffic is allowed in and what traffic is allowed out. You are in control.
And it really all boils down to two key jobs. First, you have to filter the traffic, decide who's even allowed to cross the bridge. And second, you have to direct the traffic. Once they're on the island, you tell them exactly where they're allowed to go.
So for that first job, filtering, your go-to tool is the Network Security Group, or NSG. Just think of it as the firewall for your VNet. You create these really specific rules that say things like, okay, let's allow web traffic on port 443 from this specific IP address, but block absolutely everything else.
And for the second job, directing that traffic, you use route tables. See, Azure has its own default way of sending traffic around, but maybe you want all your internet-bound traffic to go through a special security device first. Well, a route table lets you override that default and create your own custom paths. You're the traffic cop.
Okay, let's bring it all home. We're going to wrap this up with the bottom line. What are the absolute key things you need to remember about Azure VNets?
First up, and this one might actually surprise you, creating an Azure Virtual Network itself costs $0. Yep, it's free. Now, of course, you'll pay for the things you put in the network, like your virtual machines and for the data moving around. But the actual VNet, that foundational structure, it costs nothing to set up. And really, this quote just sums it all up perfectly. A VNet gives you the best of both worlds. You get the unbelievable scale and reliability of the Azure cloud, but you get to manage it all using the same kinds of networking ideas, like subnets and routing, that you're probably already familiar with from your own data centers. So at the end of the day, just remember this. Your virtual network is the foundation. It's the secure, private ground that you're going to build your entire cloud setup on. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build on it?